fast ship comes out of deep space and approaches an isolated moon base, coming down and landing in its landing area. A determined figure wearing a breath mask enters through the airlock and moves quickly into the corridor. Coming into the darkened hallway, he encounters another figure who activates a lightsaber, and they briefly fight before the masked figure cuts him down. He then goes on searching and encounters a commando who then fires his laser rifle at him. He deflects them all with his lightsaber and then charges after him. He continues retreating and occasionally firing, but eventually reaches a sealed door and has to make a stand firing back, but he is not able to hit him once. The masked figure charges forward and strikes the barrel off of his gun, and then in the next sweep cuts off his head. The head within its helmet falls and clatters over the floor until it comes to rest in a corner. The masked figure is still breathing hard and then deactivates his saber and puts it away. He walks to the helmet and collects it, carrying it away as he makes his way back to his ship. Going unopposed, he climbs back aboard and tosses the helmet back behind him, where there are half a dozen similar helmets in a pile. Once he is in his ship, he removes the breath mask, and Anakin receives word from AR about the communication from Obi-Wan. Anakin watches a message from Obi-Wan telling him they need him on Alderaan, and he tells AR to send a message in reply that he had to take care of a little problem first, but is now on his way. AR acknowledges, and Anakin then takes off in his craft. At night, a military force of clone troopers approaches the surface of Alderaan, with Captain Kenobi shouting out some last instructions to his soldiers as the troop transport approaches its landing position. Obi-Wan gives instructions to the pilot and keeps an eye outside, but apart from the light cast from a passing spotlight glaring from one of the transports, he can see little. As the doors of the craft open wide, clone troopers flow out across the surface, facing a force of battle droids, mostly cutting them down with their new weapons. The droid army inadequately defends their turf, only getting a few hits on the troopers with their plasma rifles, many of which only deflect off their armor suits. Kenobi watches the progress of the troopers from his base position near the front line. Ahead is another village that had been occupied and which is flying the Federation banner, but as the troops move forward and enter, soon it is replaced by the Republic banner. Anakin lands and meets up with Kenobi as he tells him they are ready to move in to prevent lawlessness as the clone troopers move ahead to the next village. Kenobi asks him about his business, and receiving an evasive answer then says he wishes Anakin wouldn't always be so mysterious, but tells him he's glad to have him here. Kenobi directs the supporting force forward, and they see the devastation left in the wake of the fighting, especially when the lightning flashes. They see battle droids blown to pieces, and only occasionally a fallen clone trooper. They make their way into the village to scores of thankful inhabitants. As Anakin makes his way through them to assure order, to help establish Guardian troopers there, and take out any last remnants of resistance. Then a few of them indicate to Anakin the family who sympathized with the Federation and worked with them to maintain control and send their children off into slavery. Anakin moves to this house and the man there begs for mercy, given that he had done it all for the sake of his family. Anakin looks expressionless, then raises his lightsaber and cuts short a terror-filled scream. Anakin then sets the house on fire, steps out of the burning building, and tells them that they haven't anything more to worry about from them. They cheer him and people praise them, and they revere the Jedi almost as though they were gods. Then Anakin goes off back to his ship looking supremely confident, and begins speaking to AR. Then he suddenly begins to feel differently, and starts to stroke his forehead. AR questions him, but he says he is just going to take a walk. He walks off into the woods to the edge of a lake, looks up into the sky, then he screams and flops down at the shore, washing water over his face. He then hears the voice of his mother, and he looks up, calling to his mother. He sees her apparition before him, standing on the water, yet casting no reflection upon the ripples. She asks him, "Ani, what have you done?" He says he has to act for the sake of peace and the defense of the Republic. She asks concerning him, but he cannot explain how he feels at times, strong one minute and weak the next. She cautions him concerning his aggression, and he tells her that people expect him to be a winner and expect him to succeed, and it's difficult, but he has to accomplish what he needs to. And then he rises up to go to her, stepping out into the water, but her apparition has vanished. The Republic force returns to Coruscant, and it is evident on their arrival that everyone is in jubilation, and receive the news that the Federation forces are no longer willing to fight, that they have sued for peace, and that the way to the Trade Federation capital of Thulak is clear. They are told that the Senate has assembled together a group to go to secure the surrender of the Trade Federation, and to detain General Grievous. Padme greets Anakin, and they go off together. Obi-Wan then goes and meets up with Dilithium, who tells him she sees him so little now, and he tells her that that will soon change. Padme and Anakin arrive at her apartment, and she breaks the news to him that she is pregnant with their first child. He is excited about the news. He tells her she ought to go home, but she reminds him she is no longer Queen of Naboo, but a senator in the Galactic Senate with far wider responsibilities, and she was asked to go on the mission to Thulak. Anakin says that he is going to go with her, and she says that he has other obligations with Obi-Wan, but he says he will ask him. They go to Obi-Wan, who says not only that he permits him to go, but that they will accompany them in Bay's ship. They prepare to leave, and Anakin and Padme proceed to a Republic pursuit ship, one of two standing by for the mission. Bay and TT join them at the ships. Anakin and Padme speak of how it all started on Naboo, and how long ago it all is, and the circumstances when they first met. She says, now look at the two of us, and he says, three of us, and they laugh together before they board their ships. Obi-Wan enters with Bay and TT, and tells them where they are headed, the Federation planet of Thulak, the political capital, where General Grievous resides, telling him that it is a planet in perpetual night. As they are speaking and Bay is getting the ship refueled and ready, they are cleared for takeoff. The three ships take off from Coruscant, and go off together to Thulak. The ships fly to the planet, descending down into the perpetual darkness and soar above the vast and bottomless ridges, making their way over the black mountain peaks to the isolated mountaintop residence of General Grievous. They approach, and the ships land on outdoor platforms which are connected to the city via slim walkways, a city which sits upon feudal black crags of rock and connected by passageways. They emerge from their ships and are greeted by an envoy, a grim gray-skinned being called a Vapir. And Kenobi tells him that they are the official delegation from the Republic, and they're to detain General Grievous, to take him back to Coruscant, so that they can officiate his surrender. Padme is chilled by the look of these pale and bloodless creatures, who eye her with a cold stare. The dark and solemn figure leads them into a waiting area, and already Padme feels naked with so few security men to protect them. Kenobi says this is all part of being a negotiator, getting used to those one must deal with face to face. While they are waiting, a man in blue robes with a silver visor about his head emerges. He tells them that he is General Grievous, and invites them for a meal in their dining area, before they retire. After they are gathered together in the dining area, the general speaks to them about the manner of the war, and the course of events that have led to the surrender. He regards it as perhaps inevitable that the Federation would find itself in this position, given the strength and agility of their clone army, but that the Federation had already committed itself. One of the serving girls makes subtle motions to Anakin, and then to Obi-Wan. Kenobi gets the hint and makes the excuse that he has to contact their ship if they are staying. Kenobi then gets up and meets the slave girl, whose name is Mundia. She tips him off that the man saying he is General Grievous was only yesterday Admiral Risor. Obi-Wan asks her who General Grievous is, and she tells him she cannot talk to him now, and must go before she is missed. He asks if they might meet with her, and she tells him where and when, and then goes. Obi-Wan then communicates with Bay that they're going to remain there for the time being. Bay says this planet gives him the creeps, and that he's going to remain in the ship. After Obi-Wan goes off, a Vapir comes out of the shadows. Kenobi returns to his seat, and the general asks him if everything is alright, and he says that their pilot has chosen to spend sleep period aboard his craft. So the general then says that he must make preparations for the rest of them to spend their sleep period here, and Mundia makes one final glance at them before the serving girls are herded from the room. The general says he is now a servant of the Republic and will provide the best of accommodations to their delegation, and he leaves. Padme asks Obi-Wan what that was all about, and he says that they had better not speak here. Mundia is in the slave quarters, and is getting herself out of bed to meet with Kenobi, but when she opens the door she is facing an expressionless Vapir. The girl is grabbed by one of the brusque guards, and the Vapir smiles with fang teeth.